Hi. So from some of the photos during the ceremony, we can all tell that I'm a crier. So this is going to be short and sweet. And might have just gotten shorter. Just seeing your name, Julie. You are without a doubt the best big sister I could have ever asked for. Chris, you are without a doubt the best partner I could have asked for my big sister. The two of you are going to have a full and happy life together. I can still remember when the two of you first started dating back in high school. I was just a kid, but still I knew there was something really special about the two of you. Your journeys took you down different paths for a while. You both had separate adventures, but eventually found your way back to one another. There have been a number of times when I started telling the story of your relationship and how through the romance of the tale, I find that the entire room has stopped what they're doing and listening in on my story. And it's inspiring. I've often found myself in situations when I've asked myself, what would Julie do? You've always been my role model. It is because of you that I am the kind of mother that I am, the kind of wife that I am, the kind of crier that I am, the kind of friend that I am, and definitely you are one of the biggest reasons why I am the kind of person that I am. I am so blessed to have you in my life, and I'm so happy that the two of you found one another. I am also so happy to be here celebrating your marriage, because it's about time. So I would like to raise my glass to Julie and Chris. I love you both. I wish you love, I wish you laughter, and I wish you a lifetime together. Thank you.
There's a setting sun. If I stand here, I got the post. Hi, everyone. My name is Paul Norris. I am Chris's dad. Congratulations and best wishes, Chris. I stopped on Weber's on the way south from my cottage quickly to make a few notes, and we discussed earlier, best just to read them and get her done. It's a great day, good weather, terrific, a terrific setting, and a wonderful that you have. How are we doing? Wonderful that we have they reconnected after 17 years. My first memory of Chris is birth. We had a baby, but we were going to have another one, and we moved up to Willowdale, and Lynette wanted me to meet the new baby doctor, and I said sure. And so it was a Thursday afternoon, and I met the guy, and let's just see. So I wanted to participate in the meeting. He'd asked Lynette to get on the table, and she was very pregnant and very due. And I asked, can you see the elbow and the head and the knees? And he said, sure. And so he whips out his fancy marker pen, and baby doctors use real good marker pens because he drew all over her tummy. And but he did say, don't come tomorrow because I'm at a black tie dinner party, but Chris had other plans. He thought he'd make her a weekend, and off to hospital we went. But the nurses kept coming out and commenting what a great drawer I was. And I couldn't convince them that it wasn't me drawing all over her tummy. But Chris came into the world, a big 9-pound baby boy, and he's been a big part of our life over the last 40 years. And then, just second item, I brought something that sits on my windowsill in my cottage up north of Lake Nipissing. I just wrapped it up in this white shirt. I just brought an extra white shirt. I didn't know if it might be needed or not. And it's a coffee mug, and you've all seen coffee mugs with photocopies on them. with photos on them. And this coffee mug has been sitting in my window, certainly for the last 16 years up north. And it's got a photo. It must have given maybe a stocking stuffer or Father's Day gift or birthday gift. It's a photo of Chris. And you're welcome to come and I'll turn it around. And he's naked from the waist up, and he's painted purple right to the top of his head where he has a crown. And he's got his arm around his kissing cousin, and she's painted purple too. And it must be about 1992, and you're at Queen's University, and it's Cheryl Ross. And so there's Chris and Cheryl on a coffee mug that sits in my bay window in my kitchen, and I wanted to bring that and share that with you. So, quickly, and both of kids, both Chris and Cheryl, are getting married this year, both in their 40th year, and for the first time. So it's a pretty big coincidence that the two mugs sitting in my mug are getting married the same year. Now, 20 odd years ago, Chris took off on his motorcycle to the West Coast and rode down, and in September I'll be off to the West Coast, and while Chris is in Toronto working where I used to work, and I'll be riding my motorcycle down the West Coast, just as Chris did years ago. So that's life. Good luck, Chris and Julie, and many years of happiness. All the best.
All right, good evening, everyone. I'm Chris's brother, Trevor. I've also been known as Chuck for much of my life. I've been Chris's older brother for almost all of my life. Though close in age, we have led somewhat different lives. We went to different schools, we played different sports and instruments, and now work in different professions. But we also have several important things in common. Our sister Julie, our parents, a deep appreciation for nature. We are also both new dads, and lucky to be married to wonderful women. Growing up, Chris was always very interested in things mechanical or electrical. From lawnmowers and weed trimmers to motorboats and motorbikes to airplane engines and space stations. He would program the first family VCR, explain to us how the family fridge worked or didn't work, the best way to use the first family computer, a Commodore PET, you may remember that. Growing up, Chris did very much enjoy playing with gadgets, so it was no surprise that his interest later turned to mechanical engineering. Chris was always very persistent and curious and clever. He loved to figure things out. In fact, for Chris, things were there in order to be figured out. Dismantled, experimented with, and, on occasion, reassembled. I do recall, under his guidance, disassembling and reassembling many things around the house. I recall one time when my parents bought a new exercise bike. Chris's need to understand how it worked was far more important than the need to keep the bike intact. He, with me as his assistant, took the entire thing apart. Not to fix it, but to figure it out. There were pieces strewn all over the basement floor, and it was never quite put together back the same way again. Chris is ambitious, has high standards, has always valued thoroughness, doing things well and effectively, and persistence in the face of adversity. He has sought out adventure. After finishing his master's degree, he followed a lifelong dream and bought a motorbike and rode across the country, then down the west coast to San Francisco, where he presented part of his thesis at a conference. Eventually has made his way down to Peru and Ecuador. An excellent window into Chris and his role in our family life would be if you could travel back in time to our suburban basement on a Saturday morning, where the prized possession in our house was the precious remote control, which back then was called the channel box, because it was a big box and it was plugged directly into the TV. Growing up, Saturday mornings was a real high point in our house because of the Saturday morning cartoons. Without our parents' knowledge, we kids devised a complex set of rules and regulations, policies and procedures about who could and couldn't have the channel box. That lucky person could decide what shows we were going to watch and whether the channel would be changed during commercials. Whoever got down to the basement first would be what we called the channeler. They would remain the channeler until they stopped for a bathroom break, unless they remembered to announce that they were still the channeler. I'm still the channeler. As I said before, it was attached to the TV, so you couldn't take it to the bathroom. It sometimes meant that Chris and I would watch My Little Pony while Julie was channeler. Or that they had to watch G-Force Guardians of Space when I was a channeler. The complexity of these rules often meant that we would be up earlier on Saturdays than any other morning during the week. And Chris seemed to have extraordinary and miraculous control over his bladder, and would often last through several shows. But to ensure that he never has to get up early on Saturday mornings ever again, never has to fight his bladder, never has to watch a show that he doesn't want to, I would like to dub him Channeler for Life. But don't try to fast forward the rest of my speech, or press mute because I'm not done yet, and I've got the batteries. I do remember meeting Julie Schmidt many years ago, and then hearing about her more and more often. She was warm and friendly and intelligent, down to earth and confident. She did seem to have captured his mind, and she was a recurring topic in our conversations over the years. Just as much when they were together as when they were apart. I kick myself now for not having taken his musings and what ifs more seriously, thinking at the time that it was just a bit of nostalgia for his youth or idealization of a person no longer seen. But during my own stag party three years ago, sitting around a campfire up in Halliburton, I knew there was something different about Chris, but couldn't quite put my finger on it. As the conversation turned to love and love lost, marriage and parenting, he came out with increasingly odd and confusing questions that didn't seem to fit his life situation. And I was very confused. I didn't know the details of how his life had already begun changing, even in the last week or two. So when he called me one afternoon a few weeks later to let me know what had come about so quickly, it all made sense. And when I met Julie again a week later, I was delighted. There are not many things in life that incline me to believe in fate or that everything happens for a reason, but seeing you two together is certainly one of them. Sometimes it's possible that things do happen for a reason, that you now return to each other with deeper love and maturity and appreciation for each other, ready to face the challenges and share the joys of life together, much wiser and more committed. In recent years, Chris's life has changed a lot. I recall Chris lamenting once that in the last 15 years, he had 39 different postal codes. I hope this one will keep you happy, but trust that more importantly than any home or postal code, you now have a family that will make home happen wherever you are. As brothers, Chris and I have shared many adventures, some that life brought us, some that we brought to life, and some that are best not detailed during a wedding speech. But we did them all as brothers, and that has made all the difference. I'm very lucky to have had and have a brother like him. When I think back on the exercise bike debacle and Chris's insatiable curiosity that led him to dismantle it in the basement, and he can take all responsibility, I was only your assistant, I'm struck by some parallels with your life today. While Chris strives to figure things out, he has the good fortune of learning with Julie who to be in a world where not everything can be figured out. He had to be apart from Julie for a while in order to see how it could best fit back together again. And luckily for Chris, their relationship has fared much better than the exercise bike. He didn't have to put it all back together on his own, and now he's moving beyond taking things apart and creating something new. And unlike a stationary bike, the relationship will be far from stationary, and will and already has begun to take them many great places and stages. I'm lucky to have done so many fun and funny things with you over the years, Chris. You know, Julie, Graham, Ryan, and Erica, I hope you'll be lucky enough to continue to discover what a wonderful, loving, thoughtful, funny person my brother is. I'm very fortunate and blessed to have Chris as a brother. It has made me stronger and my life richer. And I'm glad to see it extend to include you. Thank you.